there, it's Kerry here again, and welcome to the channel, and welcome back if you're a return viewer. Today is a sunny Sunday afternoon, March 2023. I'm just going to do a quick video on this book here, Infantry Anti-Aircraft Missiles. Now, I don't buy a lot of these military technology type books anymore. I used to be really into it. It's still an interest with me. I just like to keep up with the developments and whatever, just the nerd, the tech nerd geek in me has an interest in mainly aviation, space flight, that type of thing, but this type of thing does creep in at time to time. And this is one of the most recent editions of the Osprey Publishing line called Weapon, which, as the name suggests, each volume focuses on a various weapon type, a particular weapon or a class of weapons. And in this one we look at Infantry Anti-Aircraft Missiles, otherwise known as MANPADS. Now that is quite a comical acronym to some people. It stands for Man Portable Air Defence System, and it's been referred to like that for about the last 30 years or so. Now this book is written by Stephen J. Zaloga, or Zaloga, I'm not sure how to pronounce that. Now he's been writing books in this vein for about 40 odd years. He became an expert in Soviet and then Russian technology. He's done a lot of research in that area, and he's dug into the Russian records when they were open to people in the West, and he learned a lot about the organisations and people and firms which make the weapons over there. Now this book it's in two parts. Starts with a basic overview of MANPADS, or Infantry Anti-Aircraft Missiles, from their development in the closing stages of World War II. The Germans developed portable unguided rocket launchers that you put on your shoulder and fire a volley of rockets up towards the aircraft. They were seen as a massive failure and didn't do anything before the end of the war. Both the Americans and the Soviets captured examples of these and thought about doing weapons based on them, but nothing came of them. Then in the 1950s, with the development of air-to-air missiles with infrared guidance, the Americans first started developing a portable anti-aircraft missile based on the Seeker from the Sidewinder air-to-air missile, and that was quite a protracted development. It wasn't as simple as they thought, and it ended up taking till the late 60s before anything really came of it, and that was the Red Eye surface-to-air missile. And then that was developed further into the Stinger, which the Americans are just thinking about replacing today. And the Zaloga then switches focus to the Soviet and Russian developments, and he talks about all the false ends and branches of the development stream of the Russian effort. They ended up with the Strela, or the SA-7 as it was known in the West in Soviet days, and then the various improvements on the Strela, which went through to the Igla and the Gimlet, or the Grimlet, or I can't remember what the code name is, and they're now up to the SA-29. It's a good overview of the history and the developments. It's not too deep. It's a very surface level overview. It just gives you the facts and figures and details and how the missiles worked and the problems with them. There's nothing too deep and depthy here. And the second part of the book shows the missiles in use, and the author dives into the history books and look at several conflicts where the MANPADS were involved, and these include Vietnam, the Arab-Israeli conflicts, Afghanistan, and so on, up until he does make a paragraph about the Russian invasion of Ukraine in 2022, but he just basically says it's too early to see what difference, if any, of these weapons make. And from the section in use, it does become pretty clear that nobody really knows how effective these infantry anti-aircraft missiles really are in combat. The statistics vary depending on who took the statistics, who saw the engagements, the people who operated the aircraft they were used against. Everyone has different numbers, and the effectiveness seems to be quite low. About a third of everything ever launched does actually makes a difference, and most of the launches are failures. And really, the main effect of these types of weapons is a deterrence type effect, to make pilots of aircraft actually have to be aware and of when they're flying fairly low. It alters their tactics and the weapons they use because they are trying to avoid being hit by these man-pad systems. So the second part of the book is quite interesting. Like the first part, it doesn't delve too deeply, it just gives you an overview of the conflicts and the weapons that were used in them and how effective, if anything, they were. The book is fully illustrated throughout. There are a lot of archive photos or photos from weapons fairs, that type of thing. There's a couple of big diagrams. There's one of the Strela. Those illustrations showing the missile and the launcher. There are a couple of look like fully painted bits commissioned for the book. This one shows an engagement in Afghanistan. The interesting thing is the book does make a point to say in the text that engagements don't really look like you'd expect from movies or TV, and then these paintings show exactly what you would expect. So it's interesting, and yeah, it's a good overview. I mean, if you're a journalist or a writer or something who wants to include this in your work, it's a good overview to show you what the capabilities are and who has these weapons and how they're used. If you're interested just in military technology like me, myself, it's fine. It's a fine book. It's, like I said, it's not too deep. It's not too detailed. It's just a fine overview and some neat pictures, some neat anecdotes, and that's pretty much it. The only thing I found bad about this book is that very little space is given to weapons developed outside of the USA and Russia. There's about 3 or 4 paragraphs about the British efforts and even less about European efforts, and there's a small section about Asian efforts, which are pretty much dismissed as copies of the Russian ones. So that is Infantry Anti-Aircraft Missiles by Stephen J. Zaloga from Osprey Publishing. Worth a look if you're interested in that type of thing. Okay, so that's all for today. We'll see you next time.